Have you ever felt like you were drowning, even when the water seemed calm? Like you were moving through the motions of life, but completely lost at sea? We all know what it feels like to stand at a crossroads, unsure which way to turn. Maybe you're there right now, wrestling with questions about your purpose, struggling to make ends meet, or just feeling like you're constantly battling your own self-doubt. This isn't just about surviving. It's about finding true north when your compass feels utterly broken. Today, we're going to step into a story that many of us will recognize in our own lives. A story about hitting rock bottom, and then finding an unexpected path forward. It's about how sometimes the greatest strength is found not in ourselves, but in something far greater. There was a man named Ethan, somewhere in his late 20s, who knew exactly what that feeling of drowning was like. From the outside, he seemed to have everything lined up for a good life, but inside, a silent storm was raging. He'd built his career, or what he thought was his career, on ambition and a quiet confidence that had once defined him. But life, as it often does, had a way of shifting the ground beneath his feet. The first tremor hit when the layoff notice arrived. It wasn't just a job, it was his identity. It was the place where he felt competent, where he had a purpose. The sudden silence of unemployment echoed louder than any busy office ever had. Soon after, the bills started piling up, each envelope a fresh reminder of his dwindling savings and his increasingly uncertain future. That financial pressure wasn't just about money, it was about pride, about the fear of not being able to stand on his own 2 feet. He felt a deep shame creeping in, a feeling he couldn't quite shake. He started to pull away from friends, avoiding the inevitable questions about how things were going. Then came the relationship. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting matches. Just a slow, painful fading away. One day she was there. The next, an empty space beside him. And the constant, gnawing loneliness that filled it. It was like watching a perfectly built sandcastle slowly crumble back into the tide. Every single pillar of his stability seemed to be eroding. Have you ever felt that relentless weight? That crushing realization that the future you imagined is slipping through your fingers? Certainly did. He'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling the literal weight of the world pressing down on him. Every morning felt like waking up into a fog, a thick, disorienting haze where he couldn't see 5 feet in front of him. He felt like he was falling behind, watching everyone else's lives unfold on social media. Their perfect vacations, their career milestones, their smiling families, while he was stuck, lost in a wilderness he didn't remember entering. What's the point? That question, so simple yet so profound, gnawed at his core. He felt like a failure, not just in his career or relationships, but as a person. The gnawing doubt whispered constantly, am I good enough? Will I ever get it together? Am I just destined to be lost? He'd compare his messy, unedited reality to everyone else's curated highlight reels. And the comparison was a brutal, one-sided battle he always lost. The frustration built up, a pressure cooker inside him. Until one evening, after staring at yet another rejection email, he slammed his fist onto the worn kitchen table. The sudden, sharp pain, a raw echo of the hurt inside. This couldn't be his life. He couldn't keep going like this. That night was the lowest. The apartment, usually a refuge, felt like a tomb. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was deafening, amplifying every anxious thought, every fear, every echo of his loneliness. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could barely breathe. He felt utterly, completely alone, adrift in an ocean of despair with no land in sight. His mind raced, replaying every mistake, every missed opportunity, every moment he felt he'd let himself down. He just wanted it to stop. He wanted an escape. In that profound darkness, something shifted. Not a grand revelation, not a sudden light, but a whisper, a flicker of a memory. He found himself on his knees, not out of piety, but out of sheer, raw desperation. He didn't know what to say, didn't even know if anyone was listening, but the words spilled out anyway, a jumbled, tearful plea for something, anything, to change. As he knelt there, exhausted and broken, a different voice echoed in his mind. It was his grandmother's. He remembered her, frail, but with an unwavering strength, always finding comfort in her worn Bible. He remembered her gentle smile, the way she'd hold his hand, and how she'd always say, "God is always with you, Ethan, even when you can't feel it. Even when it feels like the whole world has turned its back." He slowly reached for an old, leather-bound book on a dusty shelf, his grandmother's Bible, the one she'd given him years ago. He hadn't touched it in years. He opened it, not to a specific page, but just opened it. His eyes fell upon a verse, almost as if it had been waiting for him. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." The words weren't a booming voice from the heavens, but they were a balm. They were a sudden, unexpected wave of calm washing over him, a gentle hand on his shoulder in the darkest hour. In that moment, something shifted. A tiny flicker of hope ignited deep within his chest. He wasn't alone. The words didn't fix his problems, didn't magically pay his bills or bring back his job, but they did something more profound. They broke through the suffocating isolation. He felt seen. He felt held. That night marked the beginning of Ethan's slow, deliberate climb out of the pit. It wasn't an instant fix. There were no overnight miracles. It was a conscious choice, made day after day, to lean into that tiny flicker of hope. He started small. Every morning, before the anxieties of the day could fully engulf him, he would pray. At first, it was just a few broken words, a simple, "Help me," or "Thank you for this day." But those few words became a habit, a silent conversation with a presence he was only just beginning to rediscover. He started reading his grandmother's Bible, not just the single verse, but a chapter each day. Sometimes the words didn't make immediate sense, but the act itself, the discipline, was a grounding force. It was a quiet rebellion against the chaos in his mind. He was actively looking for a new job, sending out resumes, going to interviews, and facing rejection. But this time, there was a difference. He wasn't relying solely on his own strength. He was trusting that there was a plan, even if he couldn't see it, even if life wasn't fixed yet. This was the profound internal shift. He wasn't just seeking solutions, he was seeking trust. He began focusing on gratitude, a radical idea when everything felt wrong. He'd list the small things, the warmth of his morning coffee, the sunlight streaming through the window, the friend who still called just to check in. It wasn't about ignoring the difficulties, but about acknowledging the good that still existed. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, he started to believe in himself again. Not with arrogance, but with a quiet conviction that he was capable, that he was worthy, and that he wouldn't be lost forever. The external changes followed, not as a reward for his faith, but as a natural consequence of his renewed spirit and effort. He eventually found a new job. It wasn't his dream job, not the one he'd lost, but it was a step forward, a place to rebuild, a chance to contribute. And with that, he started to see opportunities where he once saw only obstacles. The world, which had seemed so bleak and threatening, slowly began to reveal its possibilities once more. He wasn't just looking with his eyes anymore. He was looking with a new perspective, shaped by a growing, quiet faith. Years passed, and Ethan's life certainly wasn't perfect. He still faced challenges, still had moments of doubt, still had days where the old anxieties tried to creep back in. But the crushing fear, the paralyzing uncertainty, that was gone. In its place, he found a profound peace, a clarity of purpose, and a quiet, unshakable confidence. His confidence didn't come from external achievements or a flawless life. It came from knowing that he wasn't alone, that there was an unwavering presence guiding him, even when the path was unclear. He realized that true direction wasn't found in perfect circumstances, but in the steadfastness of his faith. Faith didn't make the storms disappear, but it showed him how to build a shelter within them, how to find footing when the ground was shaking. He learned that the struggle wasn't a punishment, but often a pathway, an invitation to discover a strength he never knew he possessed. He learned to trust, not just in outcomes, but in the process, in the guiding hand that was always there, leading him forward, one small, intentional step at a time. Maybe you're struggling with purpose, grappling with your finances, battling a lack of discipline, or just trying to find your confidence again. Maybe you feel utterly lost, unsure of your next move. Ethan's story isn't just his, it's a universal story of hope, a story of faith, and a powerful reminder that you are not alone. When you feel broken, that's often when a deeper strength is waiting to be found. It's not about finding a magic solution, but about finding a foundation that holds firm when everything else feels like it's crumbling. If Ethan's journey resonated with you, if it sparked a flicker of hope in your own heart, we invite you to share one word that comes to mind in the comments below. For more stories of faith and inspiration, make sure to subscribe and join our community. If this story impacted you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today.